Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that right now. Hit that subscribe button right below. All right, let's go Los Angeles Chargers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chargers favored by 3. It's Sunday at 1 o'clock, and over-under is 43.5 per FanDuel. The 7-3 Chargers against the 5-4 Jacksonville Jaguars. Heartbreaker last week for the Jags. They should be, or could be, 6-3. Going up against the 7-3 Chargers. Massive playoff implications here. Still have all of that at stake. But if you're a Jags fan and you're looking back at the season, the 29 points or whatever, 26, whatever they gave up, they're up 29-10 in the fourth quarter and blew it last week.
Particularly if the rest of the season shakes out where, the Chargers keep winning, Kansas City keeps winning, like the wild card teams keep winning, and all of a sudden Jacksonville finds themselves on the outside looking in. When they could or maybe should have solidified a wild card spot. I mean, that could be a huge loss for them, particularly if they double down and lose this game.
Well, the Jags have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs if it gets to that point where the Chiefs are battling for a wild card spot. But now you're putting this,
that only counts. Yeah, then they
if
just
you're
need
tied,
right, and only 2 of them. Otherwise, like if it's a 3-way tie, it goes to a different. Like they lose the tiebreaker that way. I forget what the tiebreaker is then, but it's not head-to-head because obviously you can't.
Either way, given the Colts' lead in the division, massive playoff implications here.
Yeah.
Where both of these teams are probably going to be battling for a wild card. Of course, there's always a chance either could win the division, but probably battling for a wild card spot.
Yeah,
and they played in the playoffs a couple years ago. Remember, this was the game where the Chargers were up big and the Jags made a huge comeback.
Jacksonville, you would assume, are definitely a wild card contending team at this point. It would take something pretty special for them to win the division, given where they are relative to Indianapolis. The Chargers, though, have got to still have designs on winning the division. They're only a game back from Denver. They're 3-0 within the division so far this season. So they have got to be looking at this and saying, we can still win the division and host playoff football. And look, the Chargers are interesting because there's a lot of good for the team. The problem is it's a bit like San Francisco where it's like the bad isn't getting much better anytime soon. Like the bad is the offensive line, and it's so banged up and injured, and it's going to be a while before it gets even remotely healthy. And at the moment, you're like, is that going to determine whether or not they can win games?
It's a good point. If you're looking at this from a Chargers perspective, they're a game behind the Broncos in the division. Denver's playing Kansas City, right? So you're sitting there thinking, well, they're underdogs against Kansas City. At the end of Sunday, the Chargers could be sitting there atop the AFC West if they win this game. So it's not just wild card playoff implications. Of course, the division is there to be had for both teams, but I mean, really for the Chargers, they have an opportunity here. Their offensive line, they survived the other night. I thought it was ugly early on for the Chargers. They did make a few big plays. Ladd McConkey always seems to be good for a big play, which is great for the Chargers offense because they're overcoming the offensive line struggles. I guess McAfee called them out too, the Chargers O-line.
Called them out?
Well, he put up all of the PFF ranks of the Chargers.
Where they were all like bottom.
Yeah.
35th out of 35,
he was
36.
kind of, what I understand, he was like, these guys are terrible. I didn't hear it. I don't want to.
So it's not cool to put them up on Sunday Night Football, but it's okay for McAfee to put them up on his show.
It's okay to trash PFF grades and let JJ go to town on PFF grades, but then he used those grades to say how bad the Chargers' offensive line is. Where we would never do such things, we would say, no, just highlight the positives on Sunday Night Football. You don't need to put all the negative grades out there where they have struggled. The Chargers' O-line's interesting because it's not like. They're also not all bad players. The guys that have struggled, like the Mekhi Bectons and Bradley Bosemans of the world, like they've had good stretches of play in their career. They're just clearly hurting at tackle where they would have had a top 2 or 3 tackle duo before Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater go down.
Yeah.
And there's just this residual effect. And they got quick pressure on Herbert the other night. And it did slow down the offense at points, but Herbert has been able to overcome with a few big throws every week. And I think that's what the Chargers are going to be battling, right? In every Chargers game from here till the end of the season, can Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker and Eric Armstead get the pressure? When they go up against Kansas City, is Spags going to get pressure? can they overcome the pressure that seems inevitable right now?
That's the problem.
Every single week.
It's like Herbert is a special caliber of quarterback in potential, but you've got two things. Number one, every game he's up against it because his offensive line is this bad right now. And, while they got Joe Alt back one time, they're not getting him back a second time. He's done for the year now. So, you've lost two elite caliber offensive tackles, neither of whom is coming back this season. So, for the remainder of the year, you are down to Austin Deculus, Trey Pipkins, Foster Sorrell if you need him. You're down to struggling players. A guy like Becton is interesting because he had a good stretch of play for the Eagles last year, but that was, number one, unexpected. Number two, it was in an offensive line that had four really good players around him, and he was able to come in and sort of raise his game to that level. And number three, he'd never done anything like that up until high draft pick who'd struggled and dealt with a ton of injuries and then was unexpectedly impressive last year in that good situation. So you're like, is that even on the cards for him, or did he just have a really good stretch of play last year? Did his good stretch of play last year require four good players around him, or is that something he could do independent of that in a bad situation? For Herbert, the thing is, you're going to be under a ton of pressure pretty much every game. That's not useful. I mean, you're making his life harder every single game because the offensive line is bad. The other concern is, Herbert is a guy who's been banged up a lot in his career, and every game you're under a ton of pressure and getting hit a lot can only be moving you closer to the next injury. And the next injury might completely determine how much this team can win and how far they can go. As long as you have a healthy Justin Herbert, theoretically they can beat anybody, right? They've shown that. I think Herbert has shown that. But as soon as you get a banged up version of Herbert, I don't think that's true anymore. If he's dealing with, a rib injury or an ankle injury or, a shoulder injury, when they go up against the best teams, I don't think they win those games.
The difference, I think, in the Chargers this year, though, is the various playmakers that they have. And one of the ways you survive a bad offensive line is getting rid of the ball quickly and having receivers who get open. And you have Keenan Allen, you have Ladd McConkey, Aronde Gadsden. I know he dropped a bunch on Sunday night, but he's emerged as a rookie tight end. Quentin Johnston had some clunky plays the other night, but has been pretty good overall. Got to get the ball out of Herbert's hands and get the ball into those playmakers' hands. And they at least have that part of the offense. I think Keenan Allen's going to be crucial down the stretch here because he's the guy that he's your blitz beater. He's your get open quick guy, be in the right spot. Ladd can do that as well. But I think that's going to be the key every single week, finding a way to protect Herbert, keep him healthy, get the ball out of his hands, protect the offensive line. They have run the ball okay with Vidal back there and have a chance to continue that against the Jags. And on the other side, it's another – look, there's a lot of truths when it comes to the Jags offense. Lawrence hasn't played great. Receivers have dropped a ton of passes. Trevor Lawrence has also faced a run of really difficult pass defenses, and it continues with the Chargers, right? They're a very good sum-of-the-parts type of defense where they might make life difficult. They challenge everything up to 20 yards. They don't give a whole lot up down the field opportunities. And so it's another game where Trevor Lawrence, who's been a little better against man versus zone, going to face zone-heavy defense and trust your playmakers. We'll see if another week of Jacoby Myers in the system ends up, increasing his targets and his looks. But Jags' passing offense has been really just a struggle this entire season.
Yeah,
it was a big part of why they could not hold on to the lead. When you blow a big lead, it's not just the defense. The offense's inability. They went 3 straight 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter. That's a big part of the reason why they blew the game against Houston.
The number one defense in the NFL this year in terms of passer rating allowed is Houston. The number 2 one is the Chargers. Yeah. So he's going back-to-back a defense that is extremely difficult to pass against versus now another defense that's extremely difficult to pass against. And they're different, obviously. I think Houston has a much more formidable defensive line and pass rush and affects them that way, but the Chargers is basically equally effective on the back end.
I think it's a fun matchup. I think it's a fun schematic matchup. You go back to that playoff game. Remember, it was at 2022. Chargers blew was like a 28-point lead. It was a massive lead. And this was when it felt like the Jags were coming into their own, right? This was second year of Trevor Lawrence, first year of Doug Peterson. They turned things around in the second half of the season. They went into Kansas City after that. They ended up losing, but it was like, all right, Jags are on the upswing. And they have not been since that point. It's another opportunity for them to get back on track here against the Chargers team. Again, I think that has done a really nice job of overcoming some of their injuries, finding different ways to win, and put together a pretty good team here that has a chance at the end of Sunday to be in first place in the AFC West if a couple things go their way. So Sunday at 1, Chargers by 3. Where are you going to go with this one?
I am going with the Chargers.
I'm taking Jacksonville as underdogs. Coming back from last week.
Okay.
Chargers as Jags as underdogs here. Harry's going to take the Chargers by 3 here.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a video.
You heard the man. Subscribe.